So we have our paper 2 of November 2024. So in terms of our instructions and information, section A, we have section A is compulsory, and then we got section B, of course, consists of 3 questions, and we have to answer any 2 of the 3 questions that we have. Then for section C, it has got 2 questions, and we have to answer 1 of the 2 questions that we have on section C. So in terms of the first part now, section A, remember it is compulsory. So the first question is the company in which the directors are jointly and separately liable for all the debts and liabilities of the business. So according to our responses, we've got a private company, public company, state-owned company, personal liability company. So the correct response that we have is a personal liability company is the most appropriate. Remember, we are looking at a company in which the directors are jointly separate liable for all the debts and liabilities of the business. So, personal liability company is the most appropriate. Then moving on to number 2, who is sold the right to use the name and trademark of VS Foods to turn in return for a royalty fee. Vusi is known as of course, Vusi is the one who sold the right to use the name. So, of course, according to our responses, you'll see that the correct one is franchisor. So we have a franchisor A, and the one who is buying becomes the franchisee. So we go to number 3. A business hiring temporary employees or using independent contractors considers this as a factor that must be considered before startup. So the correct one is obviously cost saving is the most appropriate, which we have on C. For number 4, zone K construction uses dash when alternative solutions are generated and evaluated in response to problems. So according to our response, that this problem solving, whereby you have got alternative solutions which are generated and evaluated in response to problems. So problem solving is the most appropriate. Then move on to number 5. The way the body reacts to a situation that a person finds it difficult to control is known as crisis, stress, change, conflict. So that's the correct one, stress, which we have on B. Then that's what we have on the multiple choice section with a total of 10 marks. So we move on to the next part whereby we need to complete the following statements by using the word or words provided in the list below. So of course, 1.2.1, a dash has no legal entity and therefore has no continuity. So you see that this is according to what we have as a form of ownership. We have partnership, which is the appropriate response. So 1.2.1, partnership. Then 1.2.2, Gamin showed the dash as an entrepreneurial quality when she did not give up despite the challenges faced in a business. So to see that this is a perseverance which we have on the spot. So we have 1.2.2. The 1.2.3, Nico provided dash as a type of visual aid to the audience after his presentation to remind them of the key points. So you see that in terms of our responses, the one that is a visual aid, we can give according to the responses that we have. Of course, you can see that the most appropriate that we have is a handout, which we are having on this part. So this is now 1.2.3. Then we move on to number 4. A disagreement between 2 parties is known as, of course, this is a conflict, which we have on this part. Then we go to 1.2.5. During the day stage of team development, team members come to agreement and reach a consensus. So we obviously check again, you see that we have got known as the appropriate response. So we have 1.2.5. So basically, this is what we have. Then, of course, we move on to the next part, which is now 1.3. On 1.3, we have to choose a description from column B that matches a term in column A. Of course, we've got the verb of presentation as the first one, and explanation that matches verb of presentation. We've got Each information communicated by means of an oral presentation. So H is the most appropriate. Then we go to 1.3.2 equity capital is money and assets of the owners invested in a business. So that is what we have on that part. So our response we have D. The non-conventional solutions, there are diverse solutions to a problem. So we have F. And of course, we've got globalization, which is basically engaging with other countries in terms of trade. So within that context, we'll check which one to make is globalization. But if you go down, we've got J, comply with international standards of quality, which is part of globalization. So with J, then good decision on 1.3.5, good decision. So check which one do make is good decision according to the responses that we have. So the most appropriate in terms of good decision is A, which is when you you retain your tax returns on time and you make regular tax payments. It's a good decision. So we have A. So this marks the end of our section A with 8 marks. We move on to our section B. So we're going to start on question 2, which is on business ventures. So you have to name in 4 key success factors in a business. So in terms of those key success factors, we have sustainability, strategic focus, profitability, customer base, or strong customer base. So of course, we got further success factors is mentioned. Then we go to the next part of our question, which reads, outline the aspects that must be considered when initiating a business. What are the aspects to take into account when initiating a business? Strategies such as marketing or management or public relations are implemented and continuously reviewed for business to achieve their goals. Also, operations need to be implemented. Staff must be employed and trained. Productivity of the effectiveness of production in terms of the rate of output per unit of input, which is basically productivity. So these are the aspects that we should take into account. We move on to the next part, which is 2.3. Identify the types of visual aids used by Tandy during the presentation in each statement below. So of course, on the first part, he used columns and rows to compare the table options available to investors. So this is a table. Then on the second part, it showed the relationship between two variables over a period of time, which indicates a graph. Then on 2.4, you have to explain the procedure for the formation of companies. Procedure for the formation of companies. So this is the procedure that we have. Determine the people established in the company is one of the points. We also do have on the second part, we have got to reserve a company name with the register of companies. Of course, the register of companies, that's where we register our companies. Then prepare a memorandum of incorporation by opening a bank account and register for taxation. Of course, on the next part, file a notice of incorporation and obtain a unique registration number. Further points we also have that we can also include in terms of that. So in terms of the next part, which is now avenues of acquiring businesses from the scenario, we refer back to the scenario as given. So this is the scenario that we have of real estate that you need to go through. Then the question requires us to identify 2 avenues of acquiring a business used by RE. I motivate you answer by quoting from the scenario above. So of course, by motivating, you are going to go through the scenario given. Of course, you quote the sentences, that is the motivation part. So if you try to go on this part, it reads, they allow businesses to enter into an agreement and make a monthly payment for the use of these properties. So which represents, listen, which is basically listening. And then we've got on the next sentence, RIE also offers information technology services to these businesses to allow them to focus on important business activities, which represents outsourcing as they are and sourcing from the external environment. So that is what we have. And of course, in terms of its presentation, we have this as presented. So of course, we have got the part for motivation, which we are quoting at the sentence that we have tried to underline. So I want to go to 2.6. I have to discuss the following benefits of establishing a company versus other forms of ownership. We have got legal status and liability, also have ownership and management. So in terms of our legal status and liability, a company is its own legal status, a trading name, and owns its assets. Is our first point. Shareholders' private assets are protected as they have limited liability. Of course, we also do have other points that are also correct. Then in terms of ownership and management, shareholders can buy and sell shares freely in a public company. Is our first point. Secondly, the company is managed by qualified or competent board of directors. A company is less likely to use consultant as it has a larger pool of skills and expertise. So these are the points that we have in terms of 2.6.2. And of course, in terms of the next part, which is now 2.7, you have to suggest the reasons why entrepreneurs may decide to purchase an existing business. Of course, an existing business has its own benefits. Remember, the business has already established its market share that is going to be an advantage in terms of purchasing that type of business as revenue is guaranteed. So many positives that we can deduce in terms of that. So we have them now is outlined in the answer section. First one, easier to raise financing if the business has a good history or image. Immediate cash flow as there are already established customers. Market research has already been done and there is an established customer base. Of course, further points we also have that we can also include. Question 3 is on business rules. First question, you have to name any four internal causes of change. Of course, we have no business objectives or goals can be a cause of change. A high employee turnover, where many employees have to join the business. New policies and procedures implemented in the business. New management also as part of internal causes of change. So we've got a further points that are also correct. And in terms of that, we also move to 3.2, outline the importance of stress management in the workplace. So of course, we have got the importances of stress management as also indicated. So in terms of the first part, if stress is not managed effectively, it can result in absenteeism, poor performance of staff, conflict, grievance, and complaints, amongst other things in the workplace. So stressed employees are more likely to miss work because they cannot cope or because of serious health problems. Further points, we also have what importance of stress management in the workplace. So on the next question, we have to read the scenario below and answer the questions that follow. Of course, we have to quote two principles of professionalism and ethics that AM is displaying in the scenario above. So, of course, we need to go refer back to the scenario and to try to quote two principles of professionalism and ethics. But basically, looking at professionalism, basically would see that it is often a sense of responsibility, accountability also, a sense of accountability and respect for obviously oneself and others that are around you, that is around at the workplace. So within that context, we check where it is being displayed. So if we go to the this sentence whereby it is they focus on using resources responsibly to ensure that the environment is looked after is an act of professionalism. And also, if you check the next sentence, it is the aim also practices social responsibility by giving back to poor communities. It's also an act of professionalism and ethics. So we move on to the next part whereby we have to explain the difference between professionalism and ethics. So these are the differences that we have, whereby on the first difference, other professionalism refers to when a person acquires knowledge and skills to practice a specific job or professional profession. So on the part of ethics, it now refers to the principles of right and wrong and what is acceptable in society. Look at professionalism again, it indicates set of standards of expected behavior, whereby ethics conforms to a set of values that are morally acceptable within a business or organization. So these are the differences that we have. And of course, we've got a continuation in terms of those points. So moving on the next question, it reads, discuss the functions of workplace forums. So we need to come up with the functions of a workplace forum. Workplace forum basically is a committee of employees elected by their peers that serve as a platform for consultation and joint decision making with the employer on various workplace issues. So that is workplace forum. So in terms of functions that we have in terms of workplace forums, these are the functions that we have: prevent unilateral decisions made by employers on issues affecting the employees, encourage workers' participation in decision making. Workplace forums have the right to consult the employer on restructuring of work methods or restructuring of job functions. Promotes the interests of all employees in the workplace. So these are the functions that we have of workplace forums. So of course, I will move on to the next question. You have to read the scenario below and other questions that follow. We're given a scenario of Eastern Hotel. So in terms of the question, you have to identify two major changes that people and businesses have to deal with in the scenario above. Motivate your answer by quoting from the scenario. So we have to refer back to the scenario. Of course, you are given a table beneath that on how to present your answer. So if you come at this point, it reads they reduce the number of employees. So in that case, a reduction of number of employees. This reduction is because of they want to decrease their cost, which represents a retrenchment. So this is a retrenchment, and also if you look at the next sentence, it is EH also offers equal opportunities to people from previously disadvantaged groups as a legal stipulation, which represents affirmative action. So of course you have to present your answers in this form. So I want the presentation. I will see that this is what we have, whereby we have retrenchments and affirmative action. And in terms of motivations, we will now quote the sentence that we've just identified. So this is what we have on this part. So then, of course, on the next question, discuss the importance of teamwork. So in terms of importance of teamwork provides a sense of unity that enable team members to share common interests and responsibilities. Teamwork reduces stress and enables them to work together towards achieving a common goal. Also increases employee involvement. We have got further points of importance of teamwork. So question 3.7 is the last question on question 3. Recommend ways in which professional, responsible, and ethical and effective business practices should be conducted. So the ways that we have is businesses should treat all their employees equally, regardless of their race, color, age, gender, disability. Then you go to the next one. The mission statement of a business should include the values of equality and respect. We also look at the workplace should be a safe, fair environment where employees can do their work and not be embarrassed or exposed. So we have those points, and also the business should ensure that they pay employees fair wages and salaries, which corresponds to the requirements of the BCEA. or employers should be paid for working overtime and on public holidays. So we also have further points that are also correct. Question 4 is on business ventures. It reads name and 4 stages of action plan, or steps to follow when drawing up an action plan. So these are the steps that we have, or the stages that we have, whereby first one, the summary of the vision, mission, long-term and short-term goals must be defined. On the second one, define the steps you would like you would take to get there, and also start with what must be done first, or prioritized. Further points we also have on the stages of action plan. And in terms of the next question, we have to explain the reason why business need funding. So we have to explain. Of course, this is 4.3.2. So we move on to 4.2, whereby we have to elaborate on the meaning of memorandum of incorporation. So our memorandum of incorporation, we have it as explained on this part, whereby the first part is memorandum of incorporation serve as the constitution of the company. Companies are governed according to the rules stated in the memorandum of incorporation. So we have the explanations as stated. In terms of 4.3, you have to read the scenario below and other questions that follow. You're given a scenario of rollout warehousing, whereby our first question, identify the source of funding that RW received in the scenario above. So, of course, we have to refer back to the scenario and check in terms of the funding that is stated. So, of course, if you go there, you would see that we have various indications there that we can try to deduce. So you would see that if you come at this point, it reads that they received funding from a wealthy entrepreneur in exchange for a share in their business, which represents angel funding. Remember, angel funding or an angel investor is basically someone who invests their money in a small business in exchange of a minority stake. So you'd see that these angel investors tend to be entrepreneurs or people with extensive experience in the business world. So this is exactly stated in our sentence, whereby we have put and a receipt of funding from a wealthy entrepreneur in exchange for a share in their business. So we have angel funding as our response. So we move on and see that this is angel funding. Then moving on to the next part now, which is 4.3.2. Explain the reasons why business need funding. Why do a business need funding? So these are the reasons that we have. Cover the startup costs, including premises or machinery, materials, run the business, and have enough money to pay employees or suppliers of raw materials. So these are the points that we have in terms of reasons why a business needs funding. 4.4, factors that the presenter must consider when preparing a presentation. So these are the factors that we have. And on the next question are causes of conflict in the workplace. So these are the causes that we have in terms of conflict in the workplace. For 4.6, we have to identify the stages of team development experienced by donor construction, but in each statement below. So, on the first part, the newly appointed members of the marketing team were comfortable with each other during their first meeting. So, which represents, obviously, which represents the forming. So, we have got the forming stage. Then, of course, on the second part, 4.6.2, Rowena, the team leader of the cleaning team, ensure that all tasks are completed before the team finally part ways. So this one is, of course, as indicated, is the morning or adjourning. This is the morning or adjourning stage. And on the next sentence, discuss any two theories of ethics that are applicable in the workplace. Two theories of ethics that are applicable in the workplace. So you see that we've got the consequential theory, as I explained. So we also have the common good approach, also the rights approach. So on the next part, 4.8 is ways in which business could deal with crisis in workplace. So these are the ways: assess and evaluate the nature of the crisis, and also intervene swiftly and with agency, but without panicking or overreacting. For section C, we are going to start on question 5, and that is our essay section. So we're going to look at the essay of business ventures, in particular, transforming a business plan into an action plan. So, of course, we do have information that you need to go through before the requirements of the essay. So, requirements of the essay is write an essay on transforming a business plan into an action plan, in which we will include the following aspects. So, of course, you have to outline the project planning steps, explain the purpose of a business plan, discuss the importance of timeliness and the Gantt charts or work breakdown structures, which is WBS. And then in the additional part, we have to advise businesses on the importance of an action plan. So, of course, according to our essay, this is a typical introduction that you can come up with, whereby it reads project planning steps will ensure that business projects are completed successfully. A business plan is a written document which gives a comprehensive overview of a proposed business. And then on the third point, project managers use timeliness and Gantt charts, which is WBS, as tools to get their jobs done, many of which are specific to a single company or product. So this is a typical introduction that can come up with. So of course, now going to our main part, you are supposed to outline project planning steps. That is the first part of the main part. So in terms of the project planning steps, these are the steps that we have. You have to define the scope of the plan to be done, such as define what the purpose or first and last activities will be. Further points we have in terms of the project planning steps. So basically, this is what we have. Then, of course, on the next part, we have the purpose of a business plan. So, this is what we have in terms of purpose of a business plan. It gives you gain insight in the market and competition, obtain funding from investors. So, this is the main purpose of the business plan, to obtain funding from investors. And then also set realistic goals and objectives, identify the right talent for moving the business vision forward, make correct decisions and manage the business. So these are the points that we have. So moving on to importance of planning tools. That is importance of timeliness as a planning tool. So these are the importances that we have. Then I'll move on to importance of Gantt charts as a planning tool. So alternative explanation that we have for the importance of Gantt charts as a planning tool. Uh, we have also alternative explanations that we have, whereby we have got importance of timeliness and Gantt charts as are combined. Then we move on to the next part. We have got importance of an action plan. So on the last part, we have got a typical conclusion that you can come up with. So moving on to our essay on question 6, that is on business roles, creative thinking, and problem solving. So we have information that you need to go through before you go to the requirements of the question again. The requirements of the question reads: write an essay on the creative thinking and problem solving, in which will include the following aspects. You have to outline the difference between routine thinking and creative thinking. Explain the advantages of creative thinking in the workplace. Discuss how the businesses can apply the following problem-solving techniques. We've got the Delphi technique, we've got the force field analysis, and then on the additional part, which is the last part, you have to recommend ways in which businesses can create an environment that stimulates creative thinking in the workplace. So, of course, in terms of our introduction, this is a typical introduction that we can come up with within the essay question in context. So, having gone through the introduction, we have now the first part whereby we have to come up with differences between routine versus creative thinking. So, of course, we have got a tabulative analysis in terms of the discrepancies that are there between routine thinking and creative thinking. Of course, the first difference is that under routine thinking, it refers to ordinary or everyday or conventional thinking where the focus is on logical thought and methodical way of doing things. Of course, under creative thinking, it now refers to looking at an opportunity or a problem in a new and different way where new ideas are generated. So these are the differences that we have as outlined. And moving on to the next part, advantages of creative thinking in the workplace.
Moving on to the next part, which is application of problem-solving techniques. We've got the Delphi technique, 6.4.1. So you've got a continuation of explanations of the Delphi technique. And of course, the next part is a force field analysis. Then 6.5, ways in which businesses can create an environment that stimulates creative thinking. Then obviously at the end of what you say, you're supposed to end with your conclusion.